The stars had never looked so cold to Nari as they did now, streaming past the viewport of her transport ship. She had made this journey to the Galactic Consortium 17 times in her career as Earth's ambassador. Each time she had hoped that humanity might finally earn the respect of the elder races. Each time she had returned with polite rejections and condescending smiles. This time was different. This time Earth was dying. The Grand Assembly Station loomed ahead, a structure so massive it dwarfed Earth's moon. Thousands of ships from hundreds of worlds docked at its countless ports. The Valtru had built it 10,000 years ago, back when humanity's ancestors were still learning to make fire. Nari felt that weight of history pressing down on her shoulders as her ship descended toward the diplomatic Bay Dot. She carried with her the data that would seal humanity's fate. The numbers were clear and merciless. 3 months. That was all the time left before Earth's sun would tear itself apart. The dark matter wave had come from deep space, something no one had predicted or could stop. It was ripping through the solar system like a knife through paper, destabilizing everything in its path. Earth scientists had tried everything. Hyun, the brilliant quantum physicist, had spent sleepless weeks running calculations, searching for any solution. Suji, the chief engineer, had pushed every piece of technology humanity possessed to its limits. Chiho, commanding Earth's small defense fleet, had even proposed desperate ideas like evacuating people in generation ships. Nothing worked. Earth didn't have the technology, the resources, or the time. That left only one option. Ask the consortium for help. The docking procedure completed, and Nari stepped into the station's grand corridor. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved past her. The crystalline Valtru floated by, their bodies singing with light. A group of luminari drifted overhead, pure energy barely contained in shimmering fields. Ancient Krethiks, looking like walking trees made of metal, discussed something in voices that sounded like wind chimes. None of them looked at her. To them, humans were barely worth noticing. Nari made her way to the assembly chamber, a spherical room so large that it had its own weather system. Clouds actually formed near the ceiling. Thousands of delegates occupied floating platforms arranged in concentric circles, with the most powerful races in the center. Earth's platform was near the outer edge, so far from the center that Nari needed binoculars to see the High Arbiter. She waited for hours. The consortium discussed trade disputes, border agreements, and technology exchanges. Finally, as the station's artificial sun began to set, Earth was called. The delegate from Earth may present her petition, announced a voice that echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Nari stood, her heart pounding. She activated her holographic display, showing the data. The dying sun, the cascading solar flares, the projections of Earth's atmosphere burning away, images of 7 billion human beings who would die screaming if nothing changed. Honored members of the Galactic Consortium, she began, keeping her voice steady. Earth faces an extinction-level event beyond our control or ability to prevent. We come before you not as merchants or warriors, but as desperate people seeking mercy. We ask for evacuation assistance. We ask for relocation technology. We ask for a chance to survive. She paused, looking around the chamber. We have little to offer in return now, but we promise that humanity will remember this kindness. We will work for 1,000 years to repay this debt. We will serve the consortium in whatever capacity you require. We only ask that you help us live. Silence filled the chamber. Then, from the central platform, High Arbiter Valeinges of the Valtru spoke. His crystalline body refracted the light into rainbow patterns. The consortium sympathizes with Earth's predicament, he said, his voice like glass bells. However, we must consider the practical implications. Earth possesses no unique resources. Your technology is primitive. Your people have no skills that other races cannot provide. To relocate 7 billion beings would require resources equivalent to the annual output of 12 industrial worlds. Another voice joined in, this one from a luminary representative. Furthermore, there is the matter of precedent. If we assist every species that faces natural disaster, we would bankrupt ourselves. The universe is not kind. Species must either be strong enough to survive, or make room for those who are. A Krethix delegate added, Earth has been part of the galactic community for barely 2 centuries. You have contributed nothing of significance to our collective knowledge or prosperity. Why should we spend our resources on a species that has not earned such consideration? Nari felt anger rising in her chest, but she forced it down. Because it is right, she said simply. Because you have the power to save lives, and we are asking you to use it. Because someday, you might need help from others. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Actual laughter. The sound of it made Nari's hands shake. The humans think they can lecture us on morality, someone said. They believe we might need their help someday. Another voice mocked. High Arbiter. Velmex raised a crystalline appendage, and the laughter stopped. We will vote on Earth's petition. All in favor of providing assistance? 3 lights appeared on the voting display. 3 votes out of 850. The petition is denied, Velmex announced. Let this serve as a lesson. The universe does not coddle weakness. Species must earn their place among the stars through strength, ingenuity, and value. Earth has demonstrated none of these qualities. We wish you well in your final days. The platform began lowering, removing Nari from the chamber. She stood frozen, unable to process what had just happened. They had condemned 7 billion people to death, and they had laughed about it. The journey back to Earth took 3 days. Nari spent most of it staring out the viewport, watching the stars slide by. Somewhere out there, Hyan was still running calculations. Suji was still building machines. Jiho was still commanding ships that couldn't save anyone. And on Earth, 7 billion people were going about their lives, not knowing that their leaders had failed them. When her ship entered Earth's orbit, Nari finally allowed herself to cry. The planet looked so beautiful from space. Blue and green and white, wrapped in clouds. It seemed impossible that something so lovely could die. The emergency council was waiting when she landed. Their faces told her they already knew the answer, but they asked anyway. What did they say? Nari looked at each of them in turn. President Quan, who had sent her on this mission. General Mira, who commanded Earth's armies. Director Sung, who oversaw all of humanity's scientific efforts. And there, in the corner, was Hyan. The quantum physicist looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. They said no, Nari told them. They said we aren't worth saving. The room fell silent. Outside the windows, the sun was setting. It looked normal, peaceful. No one would guess it was dying. No one would believe that in 3 months, that familiar yellow star would expand and consume everything humanity had ever built. Then we're on our own, President Quan said quietly. Hyan stepped forward. He was holding a data tablet, gripping it so hard his knuckles were white. Maybe not, he said. I have an idea. It's crazy. It might not work. But it's all we have left. Everyone turned to look at him. Tell us, Nari said. And Hyan began to explain a theory so impossible that even he barely believed it. Hyan stood before the Emergency Council, his tablet displaying equations that looked more like art than science. His hands shook slightly as he projected the data onto the main screen. He had not slept properly in 23 days, surviving on coffee and the desperate hope that his theory might actually work. What I'm about to propose will sound like fantasy, he began. But everything I've done, every calculation I've run, suggests it's possible. Not probable, just possible. And that's more than we had an hour ago. He pulled up the first set of data. Brain scans. Thousands of them, collected over the past 15 years by neuroscientist Yuna, who now sat in the front row, nodding encouragement. Human consciousness creates measurable quantum effects, Haiyan explained. Luna discovered this by accident while studying meditation. When people focus their thoughts in specific ways, their brains generate quantum entanglement particles. Alone, these effects are tiny, meaningless, but together ... He changed the image to show a simulation. Thousands of glowing points connected by threads of light, forming a web that pulsed with energy. Together, if we can synchronize enough human minds, we might generate a quantum field powerful enough to manipulate reality itself. Not in small ways, in fundamental ways. We might be able to stabilize the sun, or move Earth to another dimension, or create a shield that protects us from the dark matter wave. Director Soong leaned forward. You're talking about billions of people thinking the same thought at the same time? Not the same thought, Haiyan corrected. That's the beautiful part. They don't need to think identically. They need to think harmoniously, like an orchestra. Different instruments playing different notes, but creating one perfect piece of music. General Mira frowned. And you believe this? Mental orchestra can change the laws of physics? Physics is just mathematics, Haiyan replied. And mathematics is just information. Consciousness processes information. If enough consciousness focuses on the same mathematical problem, we might be able to solve equations that the universe itself follows. We might be able to rewrite those equations. The room fell into silence. President Kwan finally spoke. How certain are you that this will work? Haiyan knit his eyes. I'm not certain at all. The probability of success is less than 1%, but the probability of survival, if we do nothing, is 0. So I'll take 1%. Nari stood up. She had said nothing since returning from the consortium, sitting in the corner like a ghost. Now her voice cut through the uncertainty. What do you need? Haiyan felt relief wash over him. Everything. I need Suji to build quantum resonance arrays across the planet. Massive structures that can amplify and focus the mental energy. I need Yuna to develop the neural synchronization protocols. I need someone who can teach 7 billion people how to meditate in perfect harmony. And I need time. 10 weeks, minimum. We have 11 weeks before the end, Director Soong said. That's cutting it close. Everything about this is cutting it close, Haiyan admitted. President Kwan looked around the room. Does anyone have a better idea? No one spoke. Then we proceed? Director Soong, give Haiyan whatever resources he needs. General Mira, I want all military production shifted to building these arrays. Nari, work with the media. We need every person on Earth to understand what we're doing and why. As the council dispersed to their tasks, Yuna approached Haiyan. You know this is insane, right? Completely, Haiyan agreed. But so is giving up. The next morning, President Kwan addressed the world. Every screen, every device, every radio carried his message. He explained the dark matter wave. He explained the consortium's refusal to help. He explained Haiyan's theory. We are going to attempt something that has never been done before, Kwan said. We are going to save ourselves through the power of human consciousness. I know how that sounds. I know many of you won't believe it's possible. But I'm asking you to try anyway. I'm asking all of humanity to come together for one moment, one desperate attempt to survive. Across the planet, reactions varied. Some people laughed, calling it pseudoscience. Others panicked, certain that their leaders had gone mad. But many, perhaps most, simply nodded and asked what they needed to do. That's when Taiyang stepped forward. He was not famous. He was not a scientist or a politician. He had been a fighter pilot once, until an accident left him with injuries that ended his career. During his recovery, he had discovered meditation. Over 20 years, he had built a network of practitioners across the world. Millions of people who knew how to quiet their minds and focus their thoughts. "I can teach them," Taiyang told Haiyan when they met. "Not everyone, not perfectly, but I can reach enough people to start. And those people can teach others." Taiyang began broadcasting daily lessons. Simple breathing exercises, focus techniques, ways to quiet the constant chatter of the mind. His calm voice became a familiar presence in homes across the world. Meanwhile, Suji's engineering teams worked miracles. They constructed the first resonance array in just 8 days. A tower of crystalline metal and quantum processors that hummed with strange harmonies. It rose from the desert in China, visible from orbit. Then another appeared in Brazil, another in Kenya, another in Australia. 7 massive arrays, positioned at specific points around the globe, their locations calculated by Haiyan to create a perfect geometric pattern. They looked like something from a science fiction dream, beautiful and terrifying at once. Yuna's work was harder to see, but no less important. She developed neural interface headbands that could measure brain activity and provide feedback. Millions were manufactured and distributed freely. When people meditated, the bands would glow different colors, showing how close they were to the right mental state. Green meant good synchronization. Blue meant perfect. Most people got yellow or orange at first. But with practice, the colors shifted. Jiho watched all of this from orbit, commanding Earth's defense fleet. He had expected to die fighting, not sitting in meditation. The whole thing felt wrong to him. He was a soldier. He believed in weapons and armor and force. This New Age spirituality seemed like surrendering, but he followed orders. He had his crews practice the meditation exercises, and he kept his ships ready, scanning space for threats, because several alien vessels had entered the solar system. Scavenger species, waiting for humanity to die so they could claim Earth's resources. "They're circling like vultures," Jiho reported to President Kwan. "Should I engage?" "No," Kwan replied. "Save your ammunition. If we fail, you'll need it for evacuation efforts. Get as many people as you can to the outer colonies." Jiho knew the math. His entire fleet could evacuate maybe 50,000 people. Out of 7 billion. It would be choosing who lived and who died. He went back to his meditation practice with renewed dedication. 8 weeks passed. The arrays were complete. Billions of people had practiced the synchronization techniques. Taiyang's network had spread across every nation, every culture, every language. Old and young, rich and poor, all learning the same mental disciplines. Haiyan ran his calculations again and again. The numbers looked better now. Still not good. Maybe a 5% chance of success instead of 1%. But 5% was better than 0. The sun grew worse. Solar flares became visible to the naked eye. Temperatures on Earth began rising. The polar ice caps melted faster. Storms grew more violent. People looked up at the sky with fear, knowing their familiar star was betraying them. The Galactic Consortium sent an observation ship. It maintained a distant orbit, recording everything. Nari tried to contact them, to ask if they would help if humanity's plan failed. They didn't respond. "They're just here to watch us die," she told Haiyan bitterly. "They want to document our extinction for their archives." Haiyan looked at the alien ship through the telescope. "Then let's give them something worth documenting." With 2 weeks remaining, President Kwan announced the date. October 15th. That was when they would attempt the synchronization. That was when 7 billion humans would try to think in harmony and rewrite the rules of reality. Taiyang increased his training sessions. The resonance arrays began their activation sequences. Yuna distributed the final neural interface updates. Suji checked every connection, every power source, every quantum processor dot, and Haiyan sat alone in his laboratory, staring at his equations, praying to forces he didn't believe in, that he hadn't made a mistake, that his crazy theory held even a fragment of truth, that humanity would survive. On Earth's streets, people gathered. They formed meditation circles in parks and squares. Strangers held hands. Enemies put aside their conflicts, because none of that mattered anymore. The only thing that mattered was surviving together or dying alone. Jiho looked down at the planet from his flagship. All those lights, all those cities, all those people. He had spent his life protecting them with guns and missiles. Now their only protection was an impossible idea and desperate hope. The alien observation ship moved closer. Its sensors focused on Earth in the consortium's grand assembly. Thousands of delegates watched the live feed. High Arbiter Velmex sat in his central platform, curious despite himself. What do the humans think they're doing? Someone asked. Dying with dignity. Perhaps, another responded. The countdown began. 14 days. 13. 12. Humanity held its breath and prepared to attempt the impossible. The morning of October 15th arrived with clear skies. Across most of Earth, it seemed fitting somehow, as if the planet itself wanted to witness what was about to happen. In Seoul, Minho sat with his parents on their apartment balcony, wearing his neural interface headband. He was only 9 years old, but he understood what was at stake. Everyone did. Are you scared? His mother asked him. A little, Minho admitted. But Teacher Taiyang says fear is just energy. We can use it to help. Across the city, across the continent, across the world, similar conversations took place. In hospitals, elderly patients like Hannah adjusted their headbands with shaking hands. She was 87 years old, her body failing, but her mind was sharp. She had survived wars and disasters before. She would help humanity survive this too. In military bases, soldiers like Donghae prepared themselves. He was a hard man, trained to fight and kill. Meditation had never made sense to him. It felt like weakness. But his commander Gio had ordered everyone to participate, and Donghae followed orders. He sat in the barracks with his unit, all of them wearing the neural interfaces, all of them trying to believe. TAEYAG stood in a broadcast studio, his image being sent to every device on the planet. He looked tired but calm. He had meditated for 6 hours straight the previous night, preparing himself for this moment. My friends, he began, his voice soft but clear. In 1 hour, we will attempt something that has never been done. We will join our minds together in harmony, not as one mind, but as billions of voices singing the same song. Each of you is important. Each of you matters. The child and the elder, the scientist and the farmer, the believer and the skeptic. We need all of you. He guided them through breathing exercises. Slow inhale, slower exhale. Finding the rhythm that would connect them all. In his control center, Haiyan monitored the resonance arrays. The 7 massive towers hummed with energy, their quantum processors warming up. Data streamed across his screens. Neural synchronization levels, quantum field measurements, probability calculations that still hovered around 5% success. Yuna stood beside him, watching the global brain activity map. Billions of dots, each representing a person wearing a neural interface. The colors shifted and swirled, mostly yellow and orange, some green, very little blue. We need more synchronization, she said quietly. We have time, Haiyan replied, though his voice was tight with tension. Taiyang will get them there. Suji checked the power systems one final time. The arrays were drawing energy from every available source. Solar panels, nuclear reactors, geothermal plants. Every watt of power humanity could generate was being funneled into those 7 towers. If this failed, Earth would be dark for weeks. All systems green, she reported. We're ready when you are. President Kwan sat in his office, wearing his own neural interface. He would participate like everyone else. Leaders and citizens together. He had recorded a final message to be released if they failed. Goodbyes to the universe. Proof that humanity had existed and tried to survive. He hoped that message would never be sent. Nari stood on the roof of the United Nations building, looking up at the sky. Somewhere beyond the blue, that consortium observation ship watched, recording, judging. She wanted to hate them, but she found she couldn't. They were just following. Their nature, their culture of pragmatism and survival of the fittest. Humanity would show them a different way. 30 minutes, Taiyang announced. Begin the primary meditation sequence. Around the world, billions of people closed their eyes. They followed Taiyang's instructions. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Breathe out for 4. Hold for 4. The ancient rhythm of calm. On Yuna's map, the colors began to shift. More yellow dots turned green. A few green ones turned blue. Synchronization at 18%, she reported. We need at least 70% for a chance at success. 20 minutes to go, Haiyan said. They'll get there. But doubt gnawed at him. 18% was nowhere near enough. Had he miscalculated? Had he led humanity down a path to failure? Taiyang continued guiding them. His voice never wavered. Feel your breath. Feel your heartbeat. You are alive. You are human. You are connected to every other person doing this with you. Your neighbor, a stranger on the other side of the world. We are different, but we are together. Minho felt it first. A strange tingling in his mind, like someone had opened a door he hadn't known existed. Through that door, he could sense others, millions of others, all breathing the same rhythm. Hana felt it in her hospital bed. The pain in her body faded to background noise. Her awareness expanded beyond her failing flesh. She touched minds across the globe with her thoughts. Even Donghae felt it, though it terrified him. His carefully maintained walls crumbled. He could feel his squadmates around him. Not their thoughts, exactly. More like their presence. Their hopes and fears mixing with his own. Synchronization at 35%, Yuna said, her voice rising with excitement. It's working. They're connecting. On the consortium observation ship, sensors detected massive increases in quantum field activity. The crew exchanged confused looks. Their instruments were showing impossible readings. Report this to the Grand Assembly. The captain ordered. In that distant chamber, High Arbiter Velen X received the data. He studied it with his crystalline senses, trying to understand. The humans were generating quantum effects that should require industrial-scale equipment, but they were doing it with just their minds. Fascinating, he murmured. Utterly fascinating. 10 minutes, Taiyang said. You're doing beautifully. I can feel you all. Stay with me, stay together. The synchronization climbed. 40%, 50%. The neural map was turning more green than yellow now, with spreading patches of blue, but then it stalled. 53% and holding. Not enough. Haiyan saw the plateau and felt panic rise. They needed more. They needed something to push humanity over the threshold. Yuna saw it too. She understood the problem instantly. People were trying too hard, forcing it. You couldn't force synchronization. You had to allow it. She grabbed the microphone. Taiyang, tell them to stop trying. Tell them to just be. Taiyang heard her through his earpiece. He trusted her completely. He changed his approach. My friends, I know you're working hard. I know you're concentrating with everything you have. But I need you to stop. Stop trying. Stop forcing. Just exist. Just breathe. Accept whatever comes. We are human. Flawed and beautiful. Strong and fragile. We don't need to be perfect. We just need to be together. Something shifted. The forced concentration eased. People stopped fighting their own minds and simply allowed themselves to be part of the whole. The synchronization jumped. 60%, 65, 70. That's it, Yuna whispered. That's it. 5 minutes, Hyan announced. Activating resonance arrays. The 7 towers began to glow. The quantum processors reached full power. The air around them shimmered with energy that human eyes had never seen before. People felt it. A pressure building, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. 75%, Yuna reported. Climbing. 80, 85. Taiyang's voice filled the world. We are one song. Billions of notes. Perfect harmony. Feel it. Feel us. Minho felt tears on his face. He was connected to everyone. His parents, his friends. People he'd never met. People who spoke languages he didn't know. All of them human. All of them together. Hana smiled at her hospital bed. She could feel the young ones. The children who would inherit whatever future they created. Their hope was purer and bright. Donghae stopped fighting. He let the connection flow through him. It wasn't weakness. It was the opposite. 7 billion humans, stronger together than any of them could be alone. 90%, Yuna said, her voice shaking. 95. The resonance arrays sang. The quantum fields they generated began linking together, forming a net that wrapped around the entire planet. Energy poured through that net, amplified by billions of synchronized minds. 1 minute, Hyan said. Prepare for field activation. On the observation ship, alarms blared. The quantum readings had gone beyond any known scale. The captain considered retreating to a safe distance, but couldn't tear himself away from what he was witnessing. In the Grand Assembly, every delegate watched in silence. Something was happening, something impossible. 98%, Yuna whispered. 99. 30 seconds. Hyan counted down. 20, 10. Taiyang spoke one final time. Together. Now, all of us. Together. 100% synchronization. Achieved, Yuna said, her voice barely audible. Hyan activated the full resonance field. 7 billion human minds, thinking in perfect harmony, focused through 7 quantum arrays, touched the fundamental mathematics of the universe, and reality listened. A pulse of golden light erupted from Earth, expanding outward in all directions. The observation ship's sensors exploded from the overload. In the Grand Assembly, every screen went white. On Earth, 7 billion people opened their eyes at the same moment and saw that everything had changed. The first thing Hyan noticed was that he could see the equations. Not on his screens, in the air around him. Mathematical formulas that described how reality worked, hanging in space like glowing text. He reached out and touched one and understood it completely. More than understood. He could change it. What's happening to us? Yuna asked beside him. Her voice sounded different, deeper, like it was coming from inside his head and outside it at the same time. Hyan looked at her and saw more than just a woman. He saw her thoughts, her memories, her existence as a pattern of energy and consciousness. And he realized she was seeing him the same way. We did it, he said, but not the way I thought. We didn't just manipulate the quantum field. We became part of it. Across the planet, 7 billion people were discovering the same thing. The synchronization hadn't ended when they opened their eyes. It had transformed into something else. Something permanent. Minho looked at his hands and watched them phase in and out of different dimensions. He wasn't scared. It felt natural, like he had always been able to do this, but had forgotten. He turned to his parents and saw them surrounded by light. "I can see your love," he said in wonder. "It's real. It has shape and color." His mother was crying and laughing at the same time. She could feel her son's consciousness, bright and pure. She could sense her husband's steady strength. And beyond them, spreading out across the city, the province, the world, she could feel everyone. In the hospital, Hannah felt her failing body repair itself. The cancer that had been eating her alive simply stopped, then reversed. Her cells regenerated, guided by her will. She sat up in bed, stronger than she had been in 40 years. A nurse ran into the room, mouth open in shock. "Your readings. You're healthy. Completely healthy. How?" Hannah smiled. "Because I decided to be." In the military base, Dong-hae stood with his unit, all of them staring at each other in disbelief. One soldier, Kwan-sik, thought about wanting to float and lifted gently off the ground. Another, My-rae, looked at a broken chair and willed it to repair. The pieces flew together and fused perfectly. "This isn't possible," Dong-hae said. But even as he spoke, he was moving a table with his mind, pulling it across the room without touching it. Commander Ji-ho watched from his flagship as Earth began to glow. Not reflect sunlight, actually glow from within. He tried to contact ground control, but found he didn't need the radio. He could simply think toward Hyan and hear his response. "Commander, are you seeing this?" Hyan's voice came through perfectly clear, no static, no delay. "I'm seeing it," Ji-ho replied the same way. "What did we do?" "We evolved. Or ascended. Or something without a name. We're still human, but we're also something more now." Ji-ho looked at his crew. They were all experiencing it. The engineer, Bae-sung, was rewriting the ship's systems with his thoughts, making them better, faster, more efficient. The navigator Ji-won could sense the position of every object in the solar system without using sensors. Ji-ho himself could feel the fabric of space around him. He could manipulate gravity. When he focused, his ship moved without engines, pulled along by his will. On the consortium observation ship, the crew had recovered from the sensor overload. What they saw made no sense. Earth was phasing between dimensions, existing in multiple states of reality simultaneously. The planet looked solid and transparent at the same time. "Scan the humans," the captain ordered. The results came back. Every human was generating quantum fields equivalent to industrial civilization. Each individual person had the power output of a small star. "That's impossible," the science officer said. "No biological organism can contain that much energy." "Report to the Grand Assembly immediately," the captain said. "The humans have done something. Something we don't understand." In that vast chamber on the other side of the galaxy, High Arbiter Williams received the report with growing concern. The data made no sense. Humans were supposedly primitive, juvenile, weak. Yet they had just demonstrated abilities beyond anything the consortium had ever witnessed. "Send a diplomatic envoy," he ordered. "I must understand what has occurred." The envoy ship entered Earth's solar system cautiously. They sent a standard greeting message. To their shock, they received a response instantly. Not through radio. Through direct telepathic contact. "Welcome," said Nari's voice in their minds. "We've been expecting you." The ship's crew panicked. Telepathy was impossible across space. Yet it was happening. NARI appeared on their view screen. She looked the same as before, but different too. There was a light in her eyes that held depths they couldn't measure. "Please dock at these coordinates," she said. "We have much to discuss." The envoy, a Voltru diplomat named Kresh, had been chosen for his experience with primitive species. He approached Earth with confidence, ready to explain the consortium's policies and procedures. That confidence vanished when he materialized on the meeting station that hadn't existed an hour ago, Humans had built it. By thinking it into existence, matter arranged itself according to their will, forming a perfect crystalline structure that made Valtru architecture look crude. Nari greeted him in person. She stood in the vacuum of space without a suit, breathing normally, smiling. "How?" was all Kresh could say. "We learned to work with reality instead of against it," Nari replied. "The universe is information. Consciousness processes information. When enough consciousness works together, it can rewrite the information that makes up matter and energy." "The sun," Kresh said. "The dark matter wave. Did you stop it?" Nari gestured toward Earth's star. It burned steady and healthy, all signs of instability gone. "We didn't stop it. We healed the sun, restructured its core. The dark matter wave is still there, but it passes through our solar system now without effect. We adjusted the quantum frequencies." Kresh felt something he had never experienced in his 800 years of life. Fear of another species. "Your people voted against helping us," Nari continued, her voice gentle but firm. "You said the universe doesn't coddle weakness. You were right. The universe doesn't. But the universe did give us the tools to save ourselves. We just had to learn how to use them. What are you now?" Kresh asked. "Human," Nari said simply. "Just more than we were. We haven't lost our humanity. We've fulfilled it." She showed him what humans could do now. Taiyang created a small star in his hand, a ball of fusion fire that burned without consuming. Suji built a ship using nothing but thought, assembling atoms into complex machines. Yuna connected with a distant galaxy and communicated with beings the consortium had never contacted. Minho played with his friends, all of them creating worlds in miniature, pocket dimensions where they could practice their new abilities safely. Even in Ascension, they remained children. Just children with the power of gods. Hana visited others in hospitals across the world, healing them with a touch, teaching them how to heal themselves. Death had not been conquered, but suffering had become optional. Jiho's fleet transformed into something beyond military hardware. His ships could now cross dimensions, exist in multiple places at once, manipulate space-time itself. He looked at the scavenger vessels that had come to pick Earth's corpse clean, and they fled in terror. But the most profound change was invisible. Every human could feel every other human now. Not reading thoughts, exactly. More like sensing emotional presence. Humanity had become a collective while remaining individuals. 7 billion distinct voices that could harmonize into one song when needed. Donghae finally understood. This wasn't weakness. This was strength the consortium had never imagined. They had built their civilization on competition, on the strong consuming the weak. Humanity had built something on cooperation, on the weak and strong lifting each other up. And that made all the difference. Haiyan stood in his laboratory, which was now more meditation chamber than workspace. He could calculate anything instantly in his mind. The quantum resonance arrays still stood, but they were obsolete. Every human was a resonance array now. He thought of the consortium's rejection, their laughter, their dismissal of humanity as worthless. "Do you want revenge?" Yuna asked, sensing his thoughts. Haiyan considered it. He could probably rewrite the Valtru's crystalline structure with a thought now. Destroy their civilization as easily as breathing. "No," he said finally. "They were wrong, but they weren't evil. Just limited by their own experience. We should show them something better." Yuna smiled. Teacher Taiyang would be proud. Around the world, humans discussed what to do with their new abilities. Some wanted to hide, to pretend nothing had changed. Others wanted to show the galaxy what they had become. Most simply wanted to explore this new existence, to learn what else they could do. President Quan called for a global council. Every human could attend, their consciousness linking across distances. 7 billion minds discussing their future together. The decision was unanimous. They would share what they had learned, not force it on others. Simply offer it freely to any species willing to try. Nari delivered the message to Kresh, who transmitted it to the Grand Assembly. Humanity extends an invitation to the Galactic Consortium, she said. We have discovered something profound, a way to evolve consciousness itself. We will teach any species that wishes to learn. No payment required, no strings attached, just the hope of building a galaxy where no species faces extinction alone. High Arbiter Velmex received the message in silence. Around him, the assembly erupted in debate. Some called it a trick. Others saw opportunity. A few recognized it for what it was. A species they had condemned to death was offering to save them instead. The universe had not coddled humanity's weakness. It had transformed weakness into strength through unity and will. And nothing would ever be the same. 3 months after humanity's ascension, the first students arrived at Earth. They came from 17 different species, all curious, all skeptical, all desperate in their own ways. The consortium had not sent them officially. These were individuals who had heard the stories and decided to see for themselves. Among them was a young Valtru named Celix. She was only 90 years old, barely an adult by her species standards. She had watched the recordings of Earth's transformation dozens of times, unable to believe they were real. Now she stood on the surface of this impossible world, watching human children play games that broke the laws of physics. Minho noticed her watching and floated over. He was still 9 years old, still a child, but he carried himself with a confidence that unnerved her. Want to learn? He asked simply, Can you teach me? Celix replied, I'm not human. My brain is crystalline structures, not organic matter. Minho shrugged. Doesn't matter? Consciousness is consciousness. The shape it comes in is just details. He offered his hand. Celix hesitated, then took it. She felt his mind touch hers, gentle and curious. He showed her the breathing exercises, the meditation techniques, the way to quiet the constant noise of thought and find the stillness beneath Dot. It was harder for her than for humans. Valtru minds worked differently, processing information through light refractions rather than neural pathways. But Minho was patient. And slowly, over days and weeks, Celix began to feel it. The connection, the expansion, the possibility. Tai Yang had established a school in the mountains of Tibet. Thousands of students from across the galaxy gathered there, learning from him and from other humans who had mastered the teaching. He treated every species the same, with the same gentle patience. The trick, he explained to a class of mixed beings, is accepting that you already have this ability. You're not learning something new. You're remembering something you forgot. A Krethic student raised a branch-like appendage. But my species has existed for 1,000,000 years. Surely if we could do this, we would have discovered it. Tai Yang smiled. Did you ever try? Did you ever face a moment so desperate that you had no choice but to attempt the impossible? Silence. The student lowered his appendage. Humanity faced extinction, Tai Yang continued. We had nothing left to lose. That desperation opened doors we didn't know existed. You don't need desperation now, but you do need to be willing to try. Not everyone succeeded. Some species found the techniques incompatible with their biology. Others succeeded partially, gaining small abilities, but not the full transformation. But many, to their shock and joy, discovered they could do what humans did. The first non-human to fully ascend was Celix. It happened during a meditation session with Minho. She felt the barrier break, felt her consciousness expand beyond her crystalline form. Light exploded from her body, and for a moment, she existed in multiple dimensions at once. When she returned to normal awareness, She was crying. Vultru didn't cry normally, having no tear ducts. But she had restructured her biology to allow it, just to express the overwhelming emotion. "I see it now," she said to Minho. "I see everything you tried to show me." We were so blind. News of her ascension spread through the consortium like wildfire. If a Vultru could do it, anyone could. More students came to Earth. Then more. The schools multiplied. Human teachers spread across the galaxy, sharing their knowledge freely. High Arbiter Velmex watched all of this from his chamber in the Grand Assembly. He was old, even by Vultru standards. Nearly 3,000 years old. He had seen civilizations rise and fall. He had believed he understood the universe and its rules. Humanity had proven him wrong. Finally, he could resist no longer. He requested a private meeting with Nari. They met in the same chamber where she had once begged for help. But now she materialized from thin air, not needing a ship or platform. She looked at him without anger, without judgment, just calm acceptance. "You came to gloat?" Velnex asked, his crystalline voice brittle. "No," Nari replied. "I came because you asked. That's enough. We condemned your species to death. We laughed at your desperation. And now you offer us the greatest gift in galactic history. Why?" Nari settled into a chair that formed from nothing to support her. "Because we understand what you didn't. Power isn't about domination. It's about lifting others up. We could have used our abilities to destroy the consortium. Instead, we're using them to help you evolve. Some of your people wanted revenge," Velmex noted. "I monitored your discussions." "Some did," Nari agreed. "Humans are complicated. We feel anger, pain, hatred. But we also feel compassion, hope, love. We chose which feelings to act on. We chose to be better than our worst impulses." Velmex was silent for a long moment. "Can you teach me? Can someone as old as me learn this?" Nari smiled. "Age doesn't matter. Only willingness. Are you willing to try?" "I am," Velmex said quietly. Learning was harder for him than for young Celix. His mind had calcified over millennia, set in patterns that resisted change. But Nari worked with him personally, showing him the way with patience that surprised them both. It took 6 months. 6 months of daily practice, of frustration, of small failures and smaller successes. But finally, in a moment of perfect stillness, Velmex felt the barrier break. His consciousness expanded. He touched the quantum field and felt it respond to his will. When he opened his eyes, tears of light streamed down his crystalline face. "Forgive me," he said to Nari. "Forgive all of us for what we did to your people." "There's nothing to forgive," Nari replied. "You did what you thought was right, according to your understanding. Now you have a chance to do better. That's all anyone can ask." Velmex proposed a radical restructuring of the Galactic Consortium. Not a government of nations, but a commonwealth of conscious beings. Not based on who was oldest or strongest, but on who could work together best. The proposal met resistance. Many elder races saw it as giving up their privileged positions. But as more of them ascended, as more of them experienced what humanity had discovered, resistance faded. A new organization formed. The Commonwealth of Ascended Worlds, with Earth at its symbolic heart. Not because humans ruled it, but because they had shown the way. Hyon became the Commonwealth's chief scientist, though he laughed at the title. Science as he had known it was obsolete. Now he explored consciousness itself, mapping dimensions that existed beyond normal spacetime. Yuna worked beside him, studying how different species' minds achieved ascension in unique ways. Suji led engineering projects that seemed like magic. She taught others how to build with thought, how to create matter from energy patterns. Entire fleets were constructed in days. Orbital habitats materialized to house billions. Technology and consciousness merged into something beyond either. Jiho transformed the defense fleet into something new. Not weapons of war, but ships of exploration and rescue. When the Commonwealth detected species in danger, Jiho's crews responded instantly, saving civilizations from disasters that would have destroyed them. They arrived at dying worlds. The way the consortium had refused to come to Earth, they offered help freely. Some species accepted. Others refused out of pride or fear. The Commonwealth respected their choice and left resources nearby in case. They changed their minds. Taiyang's network of schools grew to encompass thousands of worlds. Millions of students from hundreds of species learned the techniques. Not all succeeded, but those who did returned to their homeworlds as teachers themselves. The knowledge spread like light through the galaxy. Minho grew older, reaching his teenage years. He had been born in humanity's final desperate days, and now he lived in an age of wonders. He studied with students from across the galaxy, learning their perspectives, teaching them his own insights. One day, while creating a small universe as a class project, he asked Haiyan a question that had bothered him. "Teacher, why us? Why did humans figure this out when older, smarter species didn't?" Haiyan considered carefully. "We weren't smarter. We were desperate. And maybe that desperation helped us let go of assumptions the elder races clung to. They thought the universe worked one way because it had always worked that way. We had nothing to lose by trying something impossible. So suffering was necessary?" Minho asked, troubled. "No," Haiyan replied firmly. "Suffering is never necessary. But sometimes it opens doors we wouldn't have tried otherwise. The goal now is to help other species open those doors without needing to suffer first." Years passed. The Commonwealth grew. More species ascended. The galaxy transformed in ways no one had imagined, but humanity remained central to it all, not through force or claim, but through example. They had been the first to achieve collective ascension, and they took that responsibility seriously. Hana, now eternally young but ancient in wisdom, served as a counselor to species struggling with the changes. She helped them understand that ascension didn't mean losing their identity. It meant becoming more of who they truly were. Donghae trained soldiers from warrior species, teaching them that true strength came from protecting rather than conquering. Many struggled with this idea, but his patience never wavered. The scavenger species that had circled Earth waiting for humanity to die became some of the Commonwealth's most enthusiastic members. They had been desperate themselves, barely surviving by claiming the resources of dead civilizations. Now they had a chance at something better. President Quan, in his final years before choosing his own ascension, reflected on humanity's journey. They had gone from facing extinction to reshaping galactic civilization in less than a decade. "We were lucky," he told Nari during one of their conversations. "We were prepared to try the impossible," she corrected. "Luck is just opportunity meeting readiness." The Grand Assembly building was eventually converted into a memorial, not to the old consortium, but to the lesson it represented. Plaques lined the walls with a simple message in every known language. They laughed at Earth's plea until humanity ascended before their eyes. Never again shall any species face death alone while others watch and do nothing. High Arbiter Velmex, now simply Valmex, visited that memorial often. He had given up his title and authority to become a simple teacher. He found more meaning in helping one student ascend than he had in ruling billions for centuries. The dark matter wave that had threatened Earth eventually dissipated, its energy absorbed and transformed by ascended beings across multiple star systems. What had once been a harbinger of death became a source of knowledge about dimensional mechanics. Haiyan stood where the first resonance array had been built, now a historical site. Students came here to see where it all began. where desperate humanity had gambled everything on an impossible theory. Do you think we would have figured this out if the consortium had helped us? Yuna asked, standing beside him. Maybe, Hyon said, but probably not. We needed the pressure, the absolute necessity, the choice between evolution or extinction. Then maybe we should thank them for refusing, Yuna suggested with a slight smile. Hyon laughed. I did. Velmex didn't know how to respond. They looked up at the sky together. Stars that had once seemed cold and distant now felt close and welcoming. Humanity had spread among them, not as conquerors, but as friends and teachers. 7 billion people had synchronized their consciousness to save themselves. Now trillions of beings across hundreds of species worked in harmony,